this courtroom moment turns intense fast as Judge Simpson comes face to face with a 25-year-old defendant who, in her words, still hasn't grown up. With 6 pending charges spread across the last 2 years, including DUI and domestic-related cases, the judge makes it clear that patience is running out. The defense argues for his release, pointing out that the defendant has completed anger management and defensive driving courses, holds a steady job, and has strong family support. But Judge Simpson isn't convinced that checklists and promises equal real change. To her, the problem isn't paperwork, it's responsibility. When the defendant's grandmother attempts to speak on his behalf, the courtroom tension spikes. Judge Simpson sharply calls out what she sees as years of coddling, warning that constantly stepping in only creates grown men who refuse to face consequences. Her message is blunt. If you're old enough to have a child, you're old enough to handle court, co-parenting, and life without your family fighting your battles. The judge then shares her own story, working multiple jobs while in school, to explain why struggle matters. Growth doesn't come from being rescued, it comes from being accountable. In the end, Judge Simpson grants release, but with strict conditions. The defendant must undergo substance testing every 2 weeks, and one missed or failed test sends him straight to jail. Her final warning echoes through the courtroom: step up, or the system will step in.
Honor, so what Mr. King wanted to share with the court was that he's been kind of proactive. So he said that he's completed some defensive driving courses, some anger management courses and things like that. But we understand that the court's main concern is the alcohol. So if there is perhaps any sort of monitoring that Mr. King can have while he's out of jail, or perhaps testing, he would be agreeable to something like that. But we just don't feel like him being in jail. I personally, I don't believe that he's going to be a danger. He's got the support of his grandmother, who's here in court with us today. And like I said, he's gainfully employed, and he does have a child, and he does have a lot to lose, and he understands that, especially having been in here.
Ms. Hunt, it's not necessarily that I think he's going to be a danger per se. The concern that I have is that he's gotten 2 subsequent charges, one of which definitely involves alcohol, since he got a DUI. And so all of these things coming into play, you can present all of this to me as the reason why I shouldn't put you in the jail, but none of that kept you from getting 2 subsequent charges after a DUI. I don't understand what's going on. Like, now I'm supposed to feel bad. Oh, he's got a 2-year-old. Well, that was your choice. Nobody told you go out there and you got pending charges and your life is probably not stable and you out here having babies. I'm not a proponent of just willy-nilly having children and then using them to try and play on the court's heartstrings, because I feel like children deserve the absolute best that we can give them. And when we just out here having them and then trying to figure it out on the back end, I'm not a proponent of that. And I see your grandmama sitting back there with her hands over her face, praying for you and everything. And I think that's a good thing. But I think that you need to take some personal responsibility. You're 25, you've chosen to have a child and become a parent. But you also have committed, allegedly, you have 3 different pending cases, not charges. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pending charges before the court, and over the course of 2 years. And so, and why I should now let you out again and risk you getting another charge. Because if you stay in jail, you'll come up next on the trial calendar. We can go ahead and try these cases and get them done. We can try them back to back to back.
So, well, 1 second, Your Honor. Your Honor?
Yes, ma'am.
If I could just say one last thing on behalf of Mr. King. Your Honor, obviously, we still would like for him to be released, but you know, I know that Your Honor is concerned about alcohol. Mr. King hasn't had any infractions involving alcohol or any issues with alcohol, at least since April of 2022. So it's going on almost 2 years.
August of 2022.
Well, I think the last case involving alcohol, Your Honor, was the one ending in 0297, is my understanding.
You gonna tell me he was stone cold sober when he went over there to the same person from the April incident? All right, I'm gonna let you have that one.
Thank you, Your Honor. But so, Your Honor, Mr. King and his grandmother was also kind of chiming in as well. Let me know that there aren't any concerns, at least we don't believe that there are any concerns that the court should have about alcohol. He's kind of been on the straight and narrow for over the last year, and so we would like the opportunity for him to get out of jail and kind of fight these charges from the outside, because he does maintain with me that he's not guilty on all of the cases, and that's kind of what I was trying to explain to him as to why we won't go into the details of that here today as to what happened in each of those cases, but without doing that, he does want the court to release him.
All right. If I release him, he's going to test every 2 weeks for substances. If he misses a test, he comes back to jail. If he tests positive, he comes back to jail.
That's fine, Your Honor.
All right, draw up the order.
Thank you.
He'll go to he'll make an appointment with the probation office, and he'll test every 2 weeks. If he misses a test, he's coming back to jail. If he tests positive, he's coming back to jail for any substance, alcohol or anything else. No, Grandma, no. Come on up, ma'am. See, your grandson is in this situation because somebody's always taking up for him, and he's not getting responsibility for the things he's doing.
I understand that, Your Honor, and thank you for allowing me to speak. But what we did, his mother and I, when they were having their spats, we only go pick up the baby now, or me or his mother.
And you shouldn't have to do that, because they should be grown enough. If they're grown enough to have a baby, they should be grown enough to co-parent. But anytime the grandmama and the mama have to get involved in transporting the baby because they can't get along, that tells me that they're immature and shouldn't have had the baby in the first place. So he needs to grow up. And no, I'm not going to facilitate that. No, ma'am.
Well, actually, it was his idea.
I don't care.
Not to have the interaction.
I don't care. He had a baby with that woman. If he can't now co-parent with her, that tells me something about the fact that they shouldn't have even had a baby together. So no, y'all can't have any contact with her until such time as that baby is legitimized through the courts.
And what court do you do that?
Superior Court. And that's not your job, ma'am. That's his job.
I just like to have the information.
I guess in trifling men. We're doing so much for them that we're not raising men. We're raising little boys that some other woman is going to be burdened with taking care of. Even if he gets back with Kay and Frazier, she going to have to do everything for him because you and his mama are coddling him. There was a time in this country where once you left your parents' house, you were responsible and you had to make your way and be responsible. Every successful person I know, including myself, you get from your parents instructions when you finish high school. Hey, I don't know what you're going to do. College, military, work, but you can't live here. And we are so busy coddling. I know he has a place now, but we're so busy coddling, especially young men. We seem to be wanting to raise women to be responsible. You got to go out and get a job. You got to do this. You got to do that. But parents continue to coddle these young men. And so they end up not being responsible for themselves or anybody else. He's a parent now, so he's grown. So anything that happens on his behalf or his child's behalf, he has to handle it. Y'all need to stop stepping in.
I respect what you just said, but in the case,
no buts.
He stepped in and is taking care of her daughter that is 4.
So
and my family and everybody that knows him respects him as a good father. So I cannot let it be said that he's not a good parent.
I didn't say he wasn't a good parent. I said they weren't mature enough to co-parent.
I recognize that, but I do want it to be on record that he is.
No, I didn't say he wasn't a good parent, and there is a path to him being able to parent his child. I told you what it is. But what I'm saying to you is you and his mama can't live his life for him. And as long as y'all are doing for him, then he won't be able to do for himself.
Thank you for that, Your Honor.
I'm just saying, you recognize what I'm saying. When you left your parents' house, how old were you?
18.
And did they say you never went back, did you?
Never went back.
Okay, this man is 25, and I'm gonna tell you what my grandmother said. My grandmother raised 13 children, and you know what she said? She said, I have never had to stand bond for any of them. But you know what she also said? If you do something, don't call me. She's right. I raised you to be responsible. I raised you to do the things that you should know how to do. And so of her 13 children, none of them had to stand in a courtroom or come get them or call my grandfather to come get them because I've raised you. So now you're on your own to be responsible the way I taught you to be. And we have gotten so far away from that. We got kids now telling their parents off, taking their parents' vehicles, hitting and interacting with their parents in such negative ways. But at a minimum, we're not raising children to be responsible. At 18, your parents said, that's it. And you went out and you made your way. And you look reasonably successful. Now, I don't know you, but you don't look like you're struggling. And what I'm telling you is until you let somebody get out there and do what they need to do, and you're looking at me in this role, but I'm gonna tell you right now, when I went to college, my parents was like, okay, you made it into college. All those student loans, I had to pay. When I went to law school, I had to pay. I was working 2 jobs in college and going to school, 2 jobs and going to school. There have been other times in my life when I worked 2 jobs and gone to school. So what I'm saying to you is he can do if y'all step out of the way and make him do it. But don't keep coddling him and we gonna facilitate seeing the baby and we gonna make sure because y'all can't co-parent because y'all fighting each other that we gonna make it easy to go back and forth. Go to court. He can go to court, set up a visitation schedule and get a superior court judge to determine how this is gonna happen. But in all things, he's gonna be a parent for the rest of his life. So if he can't get it right now at the beginning when it's easy, it's not going to get any easier. It's not.
And with all due respect, Your Honor, I don't condone. I didn't help you get into a mess. I can't help you get out, but I do support helping you through it. That's the way I look at it with my kids and my grandkids.
I got you. But what I'm saying to you is remember how you made it. And people think it's harsh. But when your parents said, you 18 now, you on your own, you might have struggled. But right now, if you face with any situation in your life, you're going to figure out how to get it, how to make it work.
Yeah.
Because you've had that experience. We don't let our kids struggle. So when they get out there, the first thing they're going to do is turn back to mama. What am I going to do now? Well, if you struggled when you first got out there and made your way and realized you got to work, you got to pay bills, you got to find a place to stay, you got to maintain a place to stay. When you do those things, it makes you responsible and able to handle whatever challenge comes your way. But as long as the parents are stepping in and keeping these 20-something, I even give a little grace for the 20s, but the 30s, the 40s, you know, I got parents who carrying these people on their back and they're coming in and raising discord in their households. We have got to stop coddling these young men. He went out there, he had a baby. So if he's chosen to give up his 20s and his carefree lifestyle to be a parent, then he's got to do what it takes to do it right. And if that means going to court and legitimizing his child, getting the money up to do what he needs to do, then he needs to do that. But nobody's telling him to go out here and just have babies without thinking about the consequences of what that means.
The courtroom is electric as Judge Simpson takes the bench, facing a young man who has already tested the limits of patience and the law. At 25 years old, he has 6 pending charges over the last 2 years, including DUIs and domestic-related offenses, a record that speaks louder than any explanation or excuse. The judge's presence fills the room, commanding attention, and from the start, it is clear that this hearing is not just about legal procedures, it is about life lessons, responsibility, and the hard truth of growing up. The defendant's attorney speaks, presenting arguments that highlight his recent efforts to improve. Defensive driving and anger management courses have been completed, steady employment has been maintained, and the defendant has the strong support of his grandmother, who has remained a constant advocate in his life. But Judge Simpson listens with measured scrutiny. She acknowledges the steps taken, but she makes it unmistakably clear that while these accomplishments are notable, they are only a part of what it takes to truly grow into an adult capable of handling life and its responsibilities. Effort, she emphasizes, is only meaningful when it translates into consistent action and accountability. As the discussion continues, the judge turns her attention to the defendant himself. Her voice is firm, unwavering, cutting through the tension in the courtroom. She questions whether he has genuinely learned from his past mistakes, whether he understands that maturity is not something granted by courses or family intervention, but something earned through facing the consequences of one's actions. The courtroom hangs on her every word as she outlines the conditions for his release, stressing that substance testing every 2 weeks is mandatory and non-negotiable. Any missed test or positive result will lead to immediate incarceration. This is a release that comes with strict responsibility, a clear message that freedom is conditional and must be respected. The atmosphere shifts as the defendant's grandmother steps forward, attempting to intercede. Judge Simpson does not hold back. She calls out what she perceives as years of overprotection, a pattern of coddling that has allowed the defendant to avoid facing reality. The words are sharp, deliberate, and filled with the weight of experience. She tells the family that constantly stepping in to shield him from consequences does not help him, it delays his growth, creating a cycle of dependence and immaturity. The courtroom listens in stunned silence as she delivers this piercing message. If he is grown enough to father a child, he must be grown enough to co-parent responsibly and face his legal obligations without family intervention. The judge makes it personal, sharing her own history to illustrate the importance of struggle and resilience. She recounts working multiple jobs while attending school, describing how hardship and personal responsibility shaped her character and prepared her for the challenges of life. Her story is more than anecdote, it is a lesson, a mirror held up to the defendant and his family, showing that character is built not by comfort or protection, but through facing challenges head-on. Every word reinforces the central theme of the hearing. Accountability is not optional, and personal growth is non-negotiable. Her warnings grow more pointed, emphasizing that the family must allow the defendant to experience the natural consequences of his actions. Love and support are essential, she says, but they cannot replace the need to face reality. The courtroom listens as she outlines the stakes, legal repercussions, setbacks in life, and the personal cost of continued immaturity. She insists that growth cannot happen if the family continues to shield him. And she makes it clear that this is his chance to prove himself, not through promises, but through tangible actions. The defendant sits quietly, absorbing the weight of her words, while Judge Simpson continues to stress the conditions for his release. Substance testing every 2 weeks is reiterated, along with the immediate consequences of non-compliance. Her instructions are precise, leaving no room for misunderstanding. Freedom is not a reward, it is a responsibility, and any failure to meet those responsibilities will be met with swift and certain consequences. The courtroom hangs on her every word, as the tension builds and the lesson becomes impossible to ignore. Throughout the hearing, the judge weaves together critique and guidance, blending legal authority with life lessons. She challenges the defendant to recognize that his choices have real-world consequences, and she challenges his family to step back and allow him to confront those consequences himself. Her words are relentless but fair, striking a balance between justice and the opportunity for personal growth. Each point she makes is a reminder that adulthood demands accountability, that excuses and interventions cannot substitute for personal responsibility. The narrative of the hearing becomes a broader commentary on life and maturity. The judge emphasizes that everyone must face the outcomes of their decisions, no matter how uncomfortable, no matter how difficult. She reminds the defendant that life is not about avoiding mistakes, but about learning from them and making conscious efforts to improve. Her message resonates beyond the courtroom, touching on universal themes of independence, self-discipline, and the consequences of relying too heavily on others to solve one's problems. The courtroom remains silent as Judge Simpson's words settle in. Her insistence on accountability is matched by her clarity about the stakes, and she ensures that the defendant fully understands the path he must take if he hopes to avoid repeating past mistakes. The conditions of his release, the expectations for his behavior, and the consequences of failing to comply are all outlined in detail, leaving no ambiguity. Every aspect of the hearing reinforces the central lesson: maturity is demonstrated through action, responsibility is earned, and life does not forgive repeated mistakes. As the hearing draws to a close, the message is clear: the opportunity for growth exists, but it will only be realized through effort, compliance, and the courage to face reality without shielding. Judge Simpson's presence, her experience, and her insistence on accountability leave a lasting impression on both the defendant and everyone observing. The courtroom is no longer just a space for legal proceedings, it becomes a stage for a life lesson that cannot be ignored, a stark reminder that adulthood is defined not by age, but by the ability to take responsibility, accept consequences, and grow from them. In the end, the defendant's future rests squarely in his own hands. The judge has set the rules, explained the stakes, and offered a chance for redemption, but it is up to him to act, to demonstrate the maturity he has so far failed to fully embrace. The courtroom, the family, and the wider world wait to see if he can step up, take accountability, and finally grow into the responsibilities that life demands. Judge Simpson's words echo long after the gavel falls, a powerful reminder that freedom is a privilege, responsibility is a necessity, and personal growth is the true measure of adulthood.